Now, the whole idea behind TEDx is something which is very close to my heart, which is to spread ideas and thoughts to all of you, to be able to spread and take you all on a journey to explore yourselves and your minds, right? Now, that's the journey that I've been on for the last 16 odd years of my life, and there are a lot of stories that I could share with you, but what I'm most excited about today is to talk about a very new paradigm that I've been working on over the last year or so. And the idea behind that was to try and identify that one human trait that if all of us could focus on, we could change the world. Right? Now, call me crazy, that's absolutely fine. You can do that as soon as you get out of this auditorium. But I'm happy to tell you that I've actually found that one human trait. And today I'm going to talk to you about that, as well as ways and means in which we can actually apply that in our lives to make ourselves more adept at helping in this entire process of the world change that we are going through right now. That trait is fairness. Now, admit it, all of us think that we are extremely fair people, don't we? Right? But tell me, if that's actually true, then why is it that we feel that our teachers do not understand us? Why we feel that our bosses always boss around? Why we feel that our girlfriends and our boyfriends always expect too much from us? The reason that we give ourselves is because we feel that not everyone is fair, right? Not everyone is right. But guess what? If we all feel that way, then there's only one thing that's true. That none of us are fair and all of us are wrong. Sounds too simple and melodramatic, doesn't it? But let me give you an example from a country that I visited recently, Indonesia. Did you know that the capital city of the fourth most populous country in the world, that is Indonesia, and the capital is Jakarta, is sinking? Within 35 years, that is within our lifetimes, it would have sunk and disappeared. And the reason for that is because every single person in Jakarta has a groundwater pump from which they draw up water, right? Now, if you ask every single individual why is their city sinking, they will all tell you that it's because their neighbor, their offices, the industries, all of them are drawing out more water than they should from the ground. But guess what all of them are missing? They're all missing the fact that the problem is not the drawing of excess water and the unfairness of their neighbors. It's the drawing of any water at all. It's this what takes me to my next averment, that for our world to become a better place, we all need to learn to be fair with ourselves and with all those around us. Right? Now, having said this, I think that the very next question that I asked myself when I was trying to develop this paradigm was, why is it that we as a society are not fair? Right? And that's the obvious next question. Now, of course, if I open it up to all of you will have hundreds of reasons why your teachers are not fair to you and your girlfriends are not fair to you and so on and so forth. But I've actually narrowed it down to 4 key reasons, right? And these key reasons are reasons that we've been taught ever since we were children. And we actually feel that these are positive statements, and positive statements through which we educate our children. The very first reason is because right from their childhood and from all of your childhoods, you've been taught right and wrong. You've been taught good versus evil. What you've not been taught, unfortunately, well enough and with as much vigor, is how to determine right and wrong for yourselves. Right from the time that we were children, we were taught about Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and how miraculously they could figure out who the good kids were and the bad kids were. Right? The problem here is that we feel that saying a bad word is wrong. And we're also taught that saying please is polite and the right thing to do. But does that mean that you can tell your teachers who are sitting here in the front row that, ma'am, may I please cheat in my exam? And that becomes right. Or I say that, oh yeah, you've got a damn good smile and you're damn smart. Does that make it not right? The problem here is that we've been taught an extremely complicated concept in an extremely simple manner. Right? Now I'll give you another illustration of this from another story from my childhood. I don't know whether all of you would have heard of it or not. It's the story of David versus Goliath. I was just reintroduced to it just about a couple of years ago in a completely different light. Now for those of you who are not aware of the story, it's a story through which we teach our children the ultimate victory of good versus evil. The way that an underdog could take over the mighty and win and be victorious. The underdog in the story, as it is told, is David. David is a small shepherd boy who's extremely feeble, and all that he has for a weapon is a small little slingshot in his hand and a bunch of rocks lying on the floor. On the other side, there's Goliath. Goliath is the mountain of a man, 9 foot 9 inches tall, who is the strongest and most powerful warrior on the other side. What we are told is that David is the underdog in this story. And what we're told is that how he managed to defeat this mountain of a man, that is Goliath. But tell me this, in today's world, if we end up sending our troops to the border with swords and shields, whereas the other side has automatic weapons, who's going to be the underdog? You see, David, however small he was, had the long-range weaponry. Goliath, who was massive, was the heavy infantry. He didn't have long-range weaponry. He was slow, he was outranged, and honestly, he was outmatched. Talk about bringing fists to a gunfight. Now, my very next reason, which is the second reason which I believe to be why we're inherently an unfair society, is because all our lives, all of you, and not just from being children, but even as we grow up, are told to strive for the best that the world has to offer. What we're not told is to appreciate all that the world has to offer. Now, this entire concept of striving for the best that the world has to offer, that's what corporates and commercial establishments use to drive up consumerism. And it's not just today where we hear about it so much. This has been going on for centuries. I won't go way back into the 1700s and the 1600s, but let's look at the 1900s. In the 1900s, corporates and commercial establishments got all of us and our predecessors addicted to a wonder ingredient that was used across consumables, from the best tooth medicine to the best consumer beverages. That ingredient was cocaine. And it was so good that it got banned. In the 20th century, in the middle of the 20th century, our, again, predecessors, our parents and our grandparents, were introduced to a new substance called CFC. And they were told that the CFC is the ingredient that makes the best air conditioners, the best refrigerators, the best spray cans. Till such time, it caused a hole in our ozone layer. Till today, this very day, all of us continue to use plastic. We've been using it right now in all the bottles of water that we've been served, right? We have no idea how it decomposes. We have no idea how to control the piling up of plastic all over our world. Yet we do it because it's the best available material for storage and for cheap construction. The problem is that we need to deal with our world as a brand new construction. And what do we do in a brand new construction? You lay down the foundation first, before you build up the grandiose floors. And all of us are striving for the best, and we're striving for those grandiose floors without the construction being laid and the foundation being laid. That takes me to my third reason, again, which is hiding in plain sight. It's something that, again, we're taught right from the time that we're children. The fact that Darwin, Charles Darwin, who I'm sure all of you have heard of, told us that our society evolves because of a theory called survival of the fittest. Enough attention has not been paid by all of us to try and go beyond and actually talk about how we can make our entire world fit when we talk of survival of the fittest. Right? Now, understand this. This whole theory of survival of the fittest has a psychological impact on our minds. The psychological impact is that we all cannot be fair because we're pitted against the other. Because it's called survival of the fittest. There has to be someone weaker for you to be fitter. Right? It's what, at the end of the day, we feel as countries that we need to be fitter. All of us need to be fitter. And what's the way that a country is fitter? By their nuclear might. As companies want to be fitter. And how are they fitter? By driving up sales by any means necessary. Just the way we saw with cocaine, CFC, and now plastic. As individuals, we all want to be fitter. And how are we fitter? By bringing down our colleagues, our classmates, our people who are in our own family. Because we want to be fitter. Now, it may sound very drab, but this is not it. There is a fourth reason. And this fourth reason is something that I really don't know how to combat. All of the first three reasons have their alternates and ways in which we can actually fix the whole narrative. But the fourth reason is because when we look at our world, and as children, when we are taught about what the world is, the very first thing that we're shown is either a map or a globe. And in that map and in that globe, we're told about continents, about countries, about divisions, about regions, and about states. What we don't realize is that when we're doing that, and that's the first time when you are exposed to what the world is, you put that in your mind, and you turn that into a blueprint through which you look at everything that this world has to offer and everything within the world. With divisions, with boundaries, with limitations, frankly speaking, with biases. Right? Now, the ability to be able to go beyond that is something that, again, eludes us because not enough emphasis is played on balancing that out. And by balance, the reason why I talk about balance is because of the way that our mind works. Both biologically and psychologically, our mind works on volumes. Right? The more we are told about a particular thing, the more we understand it and the more closer we feel to it. So the way that we're told about our world through the maps and the globes, what it puts in our heads is those boundaries and the limitations and the biases. Okay, so let's not be all doom and gloom here. There is a silver lining at the end of all of this, right? And that silver lining is what I'm most excited about. That silver lining is that the solution to this entire problem is extremely simple. It's as simple as the word fair itself. F-A-I-R. F-A-I-R is the way in which all of us can try and be fairer individuals, and the way in which all of us can ensure that we play our part in a fairer world and a fairer society. Now, before I get into what F-A-I and R are, one thing you must all understand, right, and this is extremely important, that fairness is not an absolute term. Fairness is a process by way of which you all can determine right and wrong for yourselves, right? And what I'm very glad to say is that this whole bit about F-A-I-R will hopefully help all of us achieve that if we can do that. So let's get straight into it. F for familiarize and fact find. A for argue and advocate for the other side. I to introspect and interrogate yourself. And finally R to reason and rationalize. It's as simple as that. Right? F, when I said familiarize yourself and fact find, right? It again goes back to the theory that I told you that your mind works on volumes, right? Now, a lot of people end up telling me at this stage that, Ramit, that's fine, but a lot of our decisions come from the gut, right? They don't come from facts. They come from something that we're feeling inside here. But guess what's driving the gut? Do you know what's driving the gut? It's your subconscious. Do you know what's driving your subconscious? It's facts and the volumes of facts. Your subconscious can process over 11 million bits of data every second. Whereas at the same time, your mind can only process, your conscious can only process 40. You see the difference? So the more you feed your subconscious with data, not just the data that's supporting your side of the story, but what's supporting the counter view as well, you will be in a position to then guide your gut towards making the right decision. So that the whole idea of familiarizing yourself with your surroundings, of fact-finding for both sides, is extremely critical as your step one. Step two is to argue and advocate for the other side. Now, this has its roots in a concept of justice that I've been propagating for many, many years now, but I don't think we have the time for that right now, so I'm just going to summarize it very quickly. All over the world, justice is to be heard and then judged. That's what justice is, even in India, even in a lot of countries all over the place, right? To listen and to judge, to be heard and be judged. But in my opinion, what justice needs to be is for you to actively think on the other person's behalf and then take a decision, right? Because it doesn't matter who has the better argument. Is that what justice is about? It's about who's right. And this is what this steps allows you to do. It makes you argue on behalf of the other side against yourself to see whether what the other person is saying makes sense or it doesn't. Right? Once you've done that, once you've got that before you put yourself in the other person's shoes, you move on to step three. Step three is to introspect and interrogate yourself. Now you're armed with the facts, you're armed with the best argument that can be used against you, right? Now you interrogate that whether your original belief actually still holds water or not, right? Are you still sticking to your guns, or have you understood what the other person was saying? Invariably, right? And this happens to most of us. We'll still stick to our belief. Right? It's the easiest thing to do, and we'll jump to our beliefs. Say, yes, we've heard what you had to say. We've heard what we had to say ourselves, right? And we still are where we are. That's exactly where step 4 comes into play. Because step 4 is to reason and rationalize. And you'll be surprised, all of you will be surprised, that when you actually have to put down your reasons down on paper, or even in your own mind, you often end up changing your decision. Because to start giving reasons for what you're doing, after you looked at FA and I, because those were your first 3 steps, is going to be an extremely challenging task if you're not being fair. At the end of all of this, once you've done FAINR, and you've found a reason and rationalized yourself in terms of what is the decision that you've taken, you don't need to trust me on this. You need to do it for yourselves and believe the fact that you can be fairer individuals and play your part in making a much fairer world. Now, I'm not going to go over too much of my time because I know how drab this entire conversation actually sounds when I'm saying it out loud. But I would like to give you one example before I actually leave. Right? Imagine this. You're in Sikkim. Sikkim, do you know that the lottery still works in Sikkim? Right? Unlike most other places in our country. There's this old man that I met in Sikkim. He has been buying a lottery ticket for the last 20 years of his life. Right? Every week. For the last 20 years, he's been losing. Yet, every single week, he goes out there and buys the lottery ticket. What would we call a man like that? We'll call him foolish. We'll call him mad. We'll tell him that he's wasting so much money. Imagine the amount of money he would have had if for those 20 years, for every single week, he had actually saved that money. But let's put fair and the fair theory into action now. Let's figure out the facts. The fact is, he buys his lottery ticket on a Monday. The results come out on a Sunday. Right? The time period between that is 6.5 days. The time period between him figuring out that he's lost and buying the next ticket is half a day. By his own admission, and now let's argue for him. What is he getting for himself? He's buying himself 6.5 days of happiness, of hope, of dreams. Just the thought of being much happier in life as what he believes. But guess what? He's already happy for these 6.5 days with just that thought. And in return, just to balance it out, he does get half a day of remorse and depression, and he's extremely depressed for that half a day. Now introspect, tell me, in today's world, in our lives today, would you not think that it's a fair trade to trade 6.5 days of happiness with just half a day of depression and remorse? That's much better than what all of us are achieving at this point in time. Right? To achieve this though, you had to go through the process of FAINR. Right? You can't skip any of those. You have to fact find, you have to argue for the other side, you have to introspect, and finally you have to give reasons to yourself, because guess what? You may not be answerable to your teachers, you may not be answerable to your parents or to your bosses, but you're always answerable to yourself. Right? And if you believe that this concept of fair and this theory of fair is something that appeals to you, then I'd request sincerely, as part of my journey of the last 16 years and for the many more years that I've got before me, help me play a small little part in this entire change that we're trying to bring about. Right? Try and be fair. Use the fair theory to be fair in your lives. And eventually, we will have a fair world. Thank you. Thank you very much.